Alright, this has got to be one of my craziest modifications. I enlarged the spare tire compartment to fit my oversized 245 65 17 Nitto Nomad grapplers. These are 2 inches taller and 0.7 inches wider than stock. Adds tremendously to the off-road performance. Unfortunately, from the factory, the spare tire compartment held a donut. It was the same diameter to prevent damage to your all-wheel drive system, but it was narrower, and so this one isn't even like a full-size stock. This is an oversized, identical fifth. Anyway, this is what it looks like. I made my own little platform here. This one is a little sturdier. I like it. I covered it in fabric. So this comes out to be able to get the tire out. I just have some wooden blocks right now to help support the back end of it. Still tweaking stuff, but it's pretty much done. Anyway, just a little bag here with the original scissor jack and a little board in case you have to jack it up on something soft. Here's the tire. Absolute monster, especially for a Subaru. It is just shy of 30 inches tall, and it fits quite nicely, actually. So there it is. Amazing. This is what the compartment looks like. I used primer and then liquid Flex Seal. Painted in a bunch of it to have like a sound deadening property. Anyway, it fits really nicely. I'll put it back in. Nice. Still a good amount of room there. And the tire is fully inflated. Throw the tools in. And there's still room for additional tools, you know, here, there. You can see some wires under there. That's for the trailer hitch lights. And we can put this board back in. And I'll show you underneath the car. Nice, there it is. Nice flat fit. Very sturdy. We sleep on it, and it's still nice and flat with the rest of the car. Anyway, here's the underside. You can see it now comes down and touches the top of the rear subframe right there. I used seam sealer. It's kind of like caulk for the outside of these cracks to fill them, and then primer, and then heavy duty black high performance enamel paint. Yeah. So now I'll show you the build. Alright, here's the deal. I've got an oversized tire here. It's an identical fifth in 245 65 17. And I'd really like to fit it in the original spare tire compartment. Now, at one point I kind of gave up on fitting the spare back here, and I put some sound deadening material. This stuff, closed cell foam that's adhesive on the backside, that's all the residue that you see in here. You might be able to see a bit of hammering. I've taken a 4-pound engineering hammer and beat on the wheel well quite a bit, but that is insufficient for this size tire. The sides are good. They're nice and vertical, as you can see if you look straight down. Right, sides are pretty good. The back is pretty good. Nice and vertical, good size. The only problem is this part. It kind of reminds me of a beach. It's kind of sloped like a steep beach going underwater. Here's the view from the side. I'm hoping that I can cut this out right here and then replace it with like a vertical section of metal that then goes to this other part. There's only one catch, and I felt it when I was hitting it with the hammer, and that is this kind of line right here. Seems to be maybe a subframe. We'll take a look at it from underneath. Yeah, so I think what I was encountering here, you can see some of the hammer hits, is this thing right here. It runs around. That part does seem pretty important, and I'm not sure how well I can go straight vertically down from there. Gonna have to take some measurements. But first, let's see how close the spare tire is to fitting. Put the light back up here, and I'll grab the spare and do my best to stick it in there. Whew, thing's not light. That's the best I can do. It's not terrible. I could probably do a little bit better if I air the tire down, you know, fully deflate it down to 0 psi. But yeah, it sticks up quite a bit, as you can see there. It'd be nice if it was flush, but the issue that I'm worried about is where the tire wants to hit right here. Kind of iffy. I don't want to cut into it if it's not going to fit. I'm going to air it down, let all the air out, and see if that gets it any closer to fitting. Alright, that seemed to help quite a bit actually. I could like wiggle it down a little further. Doesn't stick up quite as far, and we can get a little better idea of where it's hitting, where this needs to go vertical instead of angled. Alright, I did some measuring, and it seems like it might just barely fit. So I started with a cutoff wheel and made the cut that you see there. And then I'm going to do some hammering, and hopefully I can get it to fit. Of course, there'll be a gap, and I'll fill that gap with sheet metal later. Alright, the cut that I made helped buy a little extra play in these two pieces, specifically this top one. I marked it with a wax pencil. This is about the edge where it needs to go straight down from here. And I looked on the bottom, and it's just barely possible. This cut helped, but this whole piece needs to be stretched out. And I can't just do that with one hammer hit at a time. So I was going to cut a little bit more and then go from there. Alright, I did a little more cutting. I cut that top line and connected it on the side so I can pop that piece out. Well, there's a good view of the problem. We got the rear subframe. That's what we're looking at right there. Should be able to still work. It's gonna have to come really close to that. But yeah, where the white wax line is, I need to hammer that to get it vertical. And then by the time the tire gets close to this, it should be in position. Fingers crossed, time for some more hammering. Good bit of hammering, and I'm running into issues like right here. I pulled this up so I could feel what was underneath it. I think what I'm going to do now is cut up to this edge and then follow this edge all the way around. Alright, so what it looks like now. We're getting somewhere. We'll have to give it a test fit, maybe do a little hammering. We'll see how it goes. Alright, so it's getting really close to fitting. I had to make this part a little more vertical. But the issue I'm running into right now is this vertical depth right here is not quite enough. Yeah. So I'm gonna have to do another cut somewhere in the middle, or something, so I can get this a little bit lower. This part right here. Yeah. Alright, here are my two new cuts, right here and right there. This should let me hammer this out nearly vertical, and more hammering and then another test fit. Yeah, this project might be getting a little out of hand at this point, but nothing left to do but keep on going. Look at that, it fits, and I can even put the wooden board on top of it. But I am going to have to do some work to seal up underneath it. But yeah, let me put the board on top, and we'll make sure it's a nice flush fit. Yeah, look at that, it fits. Made this bad boy out of 3/4 ply, and I covered it with some nice soft fabric. I like it because it's sturdy, and these little stupid pieces don't fall in. Yeah, a nice flat fit. I just need to do some welding and seal up the bottom. Pretty cool. I'll show you what the hole looks like though. It's gonna take some time. Yeah, there's the damage. It took quite a bit of work. Whew. Gonna get good at welding sheet metal after this. But yeah, basically just need to rebuild this inside layer, you know. Alright, for some reason I stopped recording video and switched to just taking photos with my phone, so I'll provide the voiceover to explain what's going on. This was the status when I started welding. Of course I started with the test fit. You've got to test fit at each step just to make sure that you haven't made a mistake and prevented it from fitting and, you know, gone too far in the process. Anyway, I started with this first little piece of sheet metal. It's 22 gauge, and I used some like little magnet holder things to hold it in place, and did some tack welds across the top of it. Sheet metal is a pain to weld because you'll burn through it really easily. So you can really only do like little button-sized tack welds at a time. There you can see that I cleaned it up and then added some more, and then cleaned it up and then added some more, and there was a whole lot of that going on. Yeah, so I cut this big bottom section out. You might not have needed to do that, but it certainly made the construction a lot easier, and it gave it a nice flat bottom, which is nice. There you can see the piece. That is almost the whole 2 foot by 2 foot section of sheet metal. I did have to cut a bit of an arch into it to make it fit nicely with the other piece. Those tack welds on the bottom right side did cause some stuff to catch on fire on the outside. Not violent fire, but, you know, smoke and flames, because there's like some insulation material on the outside from the factory that you should probably wire brush off. Anyway, there you can see that's pretty much done. Lots of tack welds, lots of sections. You've probably heard of CAD, not computer aided design, but cardboard aided design. Well, with sheet metal, you can use cardstock paper, and it flexes similarly to sheet metal, and you can figure out exactly what shape you want, then transfer it onto your sheet metal. This is the top-down view. It looks pretty hideous. More test fitting. I didn't take a picture of every test fit, but I did do it after each and every step. I used seam sealer. This is an automotive product. You can see original seam sealer if you look around in other parts of the car. It's just to make sure that it's a nice seal where body panels meet. Once I squirted it all out, then I used a paintbrush to kind of like mash it in there and give it a larger surface to bond. I let that cure, and then I followed it up with some really good primer. Definitely lay the plastic down like you see here, but this primer, my absolute favorite. It really bites in. It's like it has teeth. It makes a great surface for the layer of paint or whatever you want to apply after. In this case, I used, as seen on TV, liquid Flex Seal, because it's kind of rubbery and it's a good sound deadening material, because I was afraid that I had just made a very large steel drum and I didn't want a whole lot of noise. I did the same process on the outside, except instead of the Flex Seal, I used this high performance enamel spray paint, which is also fantastic. And the reason I did that is because when Flex Seal like peels off, it won't completely like leave the area. It'll make like a little crevice that'll hold moisture and cause rust, and I definitely did not want that on the outside. Anyway, I'm super proud of this mod. If you have any questions about it, or if you're interested in doing it yourself, please ask your questions in the comment. If you found it useful, please hit the like button and subscribe if you want to see more Subaru stuff. That's it. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.